guys, Smith Reese here, back at it again with another banger whiteboard video. Today we're going to be talking about productivity maxing and how you can use it to get rich. So in today's video, I'm basically going to be covering absolutely everything I do from my daily routine, the foods I eat, to meditation strategies, dopamine maxing, dopamine baseline lowering, stuff like that. To basically get rich, because I personally think in order to get rich, you need to have the most boring life possible. I don't, like, of course you can go and do fun things, but in my personal opinion, the reason why most people are poor is because they think that getting rich is fun and exciting, but it's not. If the business you're trying is fun and exciting, then you're probably in the wrong business. So the first thing I want to talk about, and in my personal opinion, the most important aspect is dopamine. So your dopamine, basically, if you guys don't know what dopamine is, your brain has what's called a dopaminergic system. Now, your dopaminergic system is going to, it's going to regulate your hormones, it is going to regulate your mood, it is going to offset anxiety, it is going to basically, this is your mood. 24/7 is because of dopamine. Your flow state, how hard you work, how happy you are, how sad you are, is all because of dopamine. Dopamine is known as the happy chemical in your brain. If you guys aren't familiar, get familiar. So basically, what I want to talk about is your life needs to be completely boring. Okay, now this is a hard pill to swallow, but if you really want to get rich and you want to enjoy getting rich and you want to enjoy making money, your life needs to be completely fucking boring. And that's the harsh truth about it, okay? So I'm going to talk about, like I said in the last whiteboard video, you have what's called a dopamine baseline, all right? Dopamine baseline. Now, what a dopamine baseline is your set standard of dopamine every single day. So let me change markers here. Every single person, so this red marker is going to represent the bad person dopamine, the lazy, the poor person, if you want to call it their dopamine, and the blue marker is going to represent my dopamine, or my dopamine baseline and my dopamine habits. So the regular person's dopaminergic system operates like this, right? They wake up, then they scroll Instagram, spikes, and then dips. So most people operate with quick actions that gives them quick gratification through dopamine spikes. So the food you eat, all the seed oils, the sugar, whatever it may be, the carbs, that's all a dopamine spike. And that's going to basically offset your dopamine baseline. And if you're gonna rely on these spikes to be happy, unless you're hitting one of these spikes, you're going to feel like shit. So essentially people wake up, they scroll, then they drop, as soon as they get off scrolling, they feel like shit. Obviously they also haven't had a productive day, so they feel like shit. Then they go to school, maybe talk to some friends they like, then they're in a bad mood because they're at school or maybe their job. Then they come home, they eat a big unhealthy meal, spikes back down. They watch some, adult videos and then it spikes back down, and in fact, it probably drops even lower. So most people are relying on these little dopamine spikes for the quote highlights of their day, to thoroughly enjoy their day, to feel somewhat happy. Now, that's what we like to call numbing. You are numbing your brain. You are essentially adopting these terrible habits that obviously these billion-dollar companies have spent billions of dollars to get you to. I mean, why is Meta a trillion-dollar company? It's because you have idiots like you guys who are doing this, who are scrolling on Instagram and buying all these products and, talking and liking hot girls' pictures that don't know who you are, right? So the right way to kind of operate your dopamine life or your dopamine baseline, to regulate it, is by having a boring life. And that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. I'm sorry, it's gonna be a hard pill for a lot of you guys to swallow. If you wanna enjoy every single day, you gotta have a boring day. So this is basically a dopamine baseline, and I would like to call it a dopamine baseline rewire. So you're kind of reprogramming your dopaminergic system to operate in a boring way. If every single day of your life is quote unquote boring, then you're going to enjoy even the minute things. When I wake up in the morning and I see the sunrise from I'm not gonna show you guys the view or my apartment, but I live in a high-rise apartment, very high floor. When I see the sunrise and the view, that brings me so much dopamine. And the thing is let me break this down. My dopamine baseline operates like this. So it's essentially this: I wake up, I see the sunrise, then I meditate, then maybe I gotta do work and it dips down and I feel like, oh, I gotta do work. Let's say that day I don't enjoy the work, which usually I do, but maybe it's some brain melting stuff, right? Benefit of the doubt. So let's say I don't enjoy the work, boom, I feel like trash. Then you know what? I feel like I was productive and I got something done. So then my dopamine spikes up, I gotta go to the gym. My dopamine spikes down, my cortisol, which is the stress hormone if you guys aren't familiar, my cortisol spikes, so my dopamine dips. But then you know what happens after you hit the gym? Your dopamine goes crazy and you feel fantastic. This is what I call natural dopamine. It's achievement dopamine. You've gotten something done. So opposed to being Mr. Red Guy, whose dopamine operates consistently down here, I operate consistently up here. Pretty much. That's my average, right? So a lot of people rely simply on these fake, dopamine spiked, stupid, artificial stuff to feel happy. Does that make sense? You're relying on Instagram Reels, you're relying on hot girls to, you know, beat your meat to. You're relying on all these third-party factors and maybe some substances on top of that to feel happiness. I've made my life so unbelievably boring. Someone call it boring, and the only reason I'm using the term boring is because I know you clicked on this video because you understand that you're not productive, you're lazy, and you want to learn how to actually work like a millionaire and get rich, obviously, like, which is why I'm making this video, to help you guys out. But you understand that, right? So I'm only using the term boring because that's your standard. My standard for boring, I enjoy going on walks, I enjoy looking at the sun, I enjoy eating fruit in the morning while, you know, sitting in the sun. It's like one of my favorite things on the planet. I literally thoroughly enjoy going to sleep. Does that make sense? Like, do you guys see the level I'm on here? I enjoy going to bed, laying in bed, feeling comfortable, feeling grateful. Obviously, it's like a mindset thing as well. But your dopamine is so cooked. And that's why I want to talk about that. Because if you make your life so boring, you have no other option. This is like going to be like a week and a half, 2-week process, which obviously if you want to go through with, depends on how bad you want to get rich. You know, as Nietzsche said, he who is a why can bear anyhow. If you want to get rich, you're going to have to reset your dopamine baseline, and there's no way around it. So do things like, I enjoy reading. I enjoy going for walks. I enjoy working out. I enjoy sitting in the sun. I enjoy talking to friends I like. Does that make sense? Now, most people would not find proper joy or get any dopamine from doing those small activities that garner a big ROI, but that's because they're flooding their life up with stupid bullshit that grants literally no return on anything other than short-term gratification. So that's the biggest thing. You have a dopamine baseline, your dopaminergic system is fucked because a million other companies are spending billions and hundreds of millions of dollars to rewire it so they can make money off of you. You are a product, you are an NPC, and you are a robot. You need to understand that. You need to tap into your caveman roots, per se, and you need to fix that shit. So next thing I'm gonna talk about is diet, okay? So this is basically everything I do to stay flow state 24/7. So what have I eaten so far today? Now, I'm not gonna promote this. As you can tell, over there's a lot of nicotine pouches. I indulge. I don't promote it. I'm not recommending you do it. If you're gonna take any nicotine, you gotta be over 18 or 21 wherever you live. All right, I do it, all right, guys? Oh no, I do nicotine, okay? So my diet, essentially all I've eaten today was yogurt, light yogurt, and fruit with honey. And here's my philosophy. You need to consume with intention. So why do you go and eat protein? Does that make sense? Why do you go and eat these foods even if they taste worse, right? Protein powder, you're gonna spend $60 on a tub of protein powder, even though it tastes like cardboard. Why would you go spend $60 on a tub of chocolate milk powder or hot chocolate powder? Does that make sense? It's because there is intent there. There is an intent to consume with a result in mind. Does that make sense? So most of you guys, you need to consume with intent, and this comes with the content you do and obviously with the diet as well. So the reason I eat, because when you get protein powder, it tastes worse than regular chocolate milk, but you're getting protein from it. So there's value from there and there's the intent with the consumption. So when I have yogurt and I have fruit, there's intent with that. I get my protein in for the day. Obviously, it fills my stomach up. Fruit, I get necessary vitamins and I feel great. It's also fantastic tasting, especially when you put honey in it. Next thing I do is I eat a lot of raw dairy. So raw dairy, obviously, it ups your testosterone. If you guys don't know, I eat a lot of raw dairy, raw cheese, raw milk. I can go as far and say I've even eaten raw eggs. I've literally just cracked an egg open and put it in my mouth, and I've done that. But I don't do it consistently. Another thing I do is heavy meals. So I call this carb loading. Now, I'm sure this is not like a term I've coined or a strategy I've literally invented, but I haven't heard anybody talk about this. So carbs fuel your brain. Carbs are unbelievably necessary, but if you have carbs early in the day, those empty carbs, especially if it's just bread, whatever, empty carbs are going to turn into glucose or glycogen. That's going to turn into sugar, essentially, which is going to give you brain fog and mess up your hormone regulation. So you're not going to be in a flow state. I guarantee you, wake up the next morning, 8 in the morning, eat a Chipotle bowl, and tell me how you feel. Tell me if you can think after that. Does that make sense? So I carb load at the night. So I carb load on protein. I have probably a pound of ground beef. I have rice and I have raw onions. Now onions are obviously great for your gut microbiome, which I can go so in depth on. But Carb loading is absolutely necessary for productivity because this comes down to carbs for your brain and your cognitive function. So obviously I do the nicotine as well. That's obviously up to you. Caffeine is a big staple in my diet. I understand it's not the greatest for me, but if it's a stimulant and it gives me a competitive edge, in my personal opinion, I'm going to do it. So in my personal opinion, carb loading is the one thing that keeps me so unbelievably locked in every single night or every single day, right? So I don't eat anything other than yogurt and fruit until maybe dinner time. It is currently 12 and I have not had anything other than a bowl of yogurt, fruit, and honey. Nothing else. Now, carb loading essentially is you're gonna wanna load up on carbs the night before, and it's basically going to obviously get you a little bit tired. Your body's gonna have time digesting it, and then when you wake up tomorrow, those carbs from the night before, night prior, are going to carry on into the next day, fuel your brain without giving you brain fog. Does that make sense? Next thing I wanna talk about is flow state. So, flow state. I'm sure you guys have heard this term a bazillion trillion times in the online money space. It is very much so real. As you can tell, I'm in it now. I've been in it all morning because of my diet. That's why I cover everything. Dopamine diet. This video is planned out specifically. If you're still watching this video, good fucking shit. I respect you because clearly you want to fucking make money, and I hope to God that you retain and implement some of the things that I'm talking about in this video. So the next thing is flow state. The truth about flow state is that you can essentially force yourself to get into flow state. So most people don't understand this, and this is what most people don't talk about at all. You don't feel like working. Sometimes you don't feel like recording the video. Sometimes I don't feel like recording one of these videos, even though I know it's gonna help 1,000+ people get to their goals. So one, I have that why behind it. I'm sitting here giving value because I know people need it and want it. Second off, if I put my chair here, I put the tripod here, I set the whiteboard up, and I turn the camera on, I have no other choice. Even though I don't want to record it, the camera's already on, recording on my face, and I have to start talking. There's no script for this video. I'm just talking. I'm giving you guys value. See what I'm saying? You can force yourself to get into flow state. I don't know what business you're running. This is not a specific business model structured video, but let's say I personally do e-commerce. So I do drop shipping, organic drop shipping, have brands, work with influencers. If I set up a Google Doc to build out SOPs for my team, and I don't want to do it because it's brain melting work, but if I go to a quiet room, close the blinds, put on some music, and I just look at that Google Doc, I force myself to start typing within 5 minutes. I am locked in. You can force yourself to get into that flow state, and that's the hardest part, is the resistance behind it. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. The biggest thing stopping anybody, resistance, hopefully I spelled that right. The biggest thing stopping every single one of you guys from doing the work and putting in the inputs to get the outputs is getting rich as fuck, is resistance. Now the thing is that all of you guys are looking at tasks for what they are and not the return or the result that you get from doing the task. Does that make sense? So for example, me writing out a Google Doc or building out SOPs, right? I'm just gonna write doc. I'm gonna look at doc as brain melting, annoying work. Brain melting work. Now who wants to do brain melting work? But I can rewire my brain and I can frame it as, I know that if I build out SOPs for my team, I'm going to make a fuck ton of money. And guess what, I have a goal of getting a Richard Mille by the end of this year. I have a Rolex, I don't know where it is. Okay, but yeah, I have a goal of getting a Richard Mille by the end of this year, and I'm buying a Ferrari soon, probably. Ferrari or McLaren, F8 or 600 LT. Stay tuned. But anyways, I can look at that as, I want this fucking Ferrari so darn bad. Ferrari. I want this Ferrari so freaking bad. That's what I'm working for. Does that make sense? On top of that, you can look at it as in a goal perspective, or you can look at it in a task perspective. You're just sitting down, moving your fingers, sitting down. That's all you're doing, right? Me recording this video, I don't want to record the video. I got fucking time. Dude, am I really that self-centered to where I can't make a video helping 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people with their productivity routines? Fuck no. That'd be selfish for me to sit here and say, I don't feel like recording the fucking video. Does that make sense? So you can look at it as far as dumbing down tasks to what they are, or looking at the return of the tasks. I don't like working out because it hurts. Okay, but you can get jacked to shit. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So when you think about, let's say you're doing the sauna, let's say you don't want to do the sauna. At the end of the day, all you're doing is sitting down. You're just sitting down. Now, you're gonna be hot for 30 minutes, go cry me a fucking river, but the benefits of doing the sauna or the steam room is way better than, you know, not doing it. And all you're doing is sitting down. So you have to stop building up mental resistance to tasks. You need to, the less you think, the quicker you take action, the more you're going to do. I didn't think about recording this video. I just turned the camera on and started recording. So most of you guys have mental resistance, which is what's stopping you from practically getting any fucking thing done during the day. It's because you think about tasks for the negatives, the pessimistic side. Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta build this doc out, I gotta record this 4-hour long YouTube. Suck it the fuck up. First off, he who has a why can bear anyhow, so how bad do you want it? Second off, dumb it down for what the task actually is. I'm gonna go build this business. Motherfucker, I see people, I'm a high-rise apartment right now, there's people across 500 feet up cleaning fucking windows. And they make less than me. You see what I'm saying? These guys, you can't sit here and look at the task for what it is. You're sitting down, you're typing on a fucking keyboard. Does that make sense? So stop looking at tasks for what they are and all the work behind it, and start looking at them for the result you're going to get behind it, and don't even think about it at all, just fucking do it. Does that make sense? So the next thing I want to talk about is frequency. Frequency. That's a U, by the way. Frequency. So you have 3 different kind of frequencies, and this is gonna get a little bit woo-woo spiritual, but I'm gonna talk about it because it's what I personally use. Basically everything on this channel, guys, is me talking about what I personally use in my day-to-day life to get rich. So frequency. You have 3 different kinds of frequencies, and I'm gonna cover every single one. You have alpha, you have beta, and you have theta wave frequencies. So alpha, beta, and theta. When I'm waking up in the morning and I'm ready to get work, I sat down in the co-working area of my high-rise apartment building today, and I sat down and I threw on the new Ken Carson album, blasted that shit. Now, this is because this music has 808s, which is heavy bass used in trap music, and that is an alpha frequency. Now, that's gonna get you in a high energy mood. I obviously can remain flow state. I highly suggest, if you are trying to eliminate certain things, don't listen to this music 24/7 because then you're gonna feel negative. But for the state that I was trying to get in, like I said, consume with intent, please. I listened to this music, More Chaos by Ken Carson, the album, with an intent behind it. I didn't mindlessly turn it on and be drugs, pills, fucking girls, cars, fast cars, diamonds, VVS. You see what I'm saying? But I listened to it with intent. Does that make sense? Then you have beta waves. So you have alpha, theta, and beta waves. Now, these are 2 different frequencies. So going into frequencies, right? Alpha waves are going to get you very high, beta waves and theta waves. Theta waves are great for work, right? So in my personal opinion, 90% of the time, you should listen to music or frequencies that are at 432 hertz. Now, most music, like I talk about with Ken Carson or radio music, is recorded in 440 hertz, which is on purpose, right? I'm not gonna get all conspiracy theory on you guys, but 440 hertz is not harmonious with your brain frequencies. It's not harmonious with your brain. Does that make sense? You're not gonna be able to think clearly. That's why most people that if you go, all these people that go to work are stuck in a loop because they listen to 440 hertz music all day, 24/7. You see what I'm saying? 440 is the worst thing you could possibly listen to. Now, of course, if you're indulging, treat it like a treat. Treat it like, oh, I'm gonna go listen to some music today. Consume with intent. But you need to listen to 432 hertz frequency 24/7. Now, if you wanna get into a flow state, something that really works is Brain FM. This is not a sponsor. This is not anything FM. So Brain FM is essentially, it's all free on YouTube as well. You can go watch this, guys. But Brain FM is essentially to make YouTube videos, and it's just like work music. So it's just like lo-fi beats, whatever you want to call it. They basically just make music. It's free. You can check it out. They do all their stuff in 432 hertz. Now, the reason I praise and I preach 432 hertz all the time is because it is the most harmonious frequency with your brain. So the brain waves that you're putting out are 432 hertz. You basically want to make your entire life congruent and harmonious with your natural state. Does that make sense? So playing into the 432 hertz audio, another thing I do, I'm gonna talk about it right now, is something called subliminals. So, subliminals. Now, I kind of talked about this in the last video, and I'm gonna get into inputs as well in a second. But subliminals, what are subliminals? Subliminals, I don't wanna call them affirmations because you're not necessarily putting your hands on your hips, looking in the mirror and being like, I'm proud of myself, I'm him, I work hard, oh my God. But basically, subliminals are, you're layering your own vocals, because obviously your own voice is going to resonate with yourself more, over a 432 hertz frequency audio, and you're meditating to that. So I basically have a 10-minute subliminal audio, 10 minute, oh, that's a terrible end. A 10-minute subliminal audio, and basically after that's over, then I just meditate over 432 hertz frequency. So subliminals could basically be, to break down the subliminals, you can't say, I want to, I'm gonna. In order to become, you need to be, right? The millionaire, somebody who's going to become a millionaire is already a millionaire. Does that make sense? The millionaire is a millionaire before he's a millionaire. Understand that? So you can't become, you need to be. So the terminology you use in the subliminals is very important, because you need to say, I am, I have like you have to basically say, I am a millionaire. Even if you're not a millionaire, you have to say, I'm a millionaire. I told myself I ran $1 million a year company until I ran $1 million a year company. Does that make sense? So you gotta do that. Next thing with the 432 hertz is meditation. Now meditation, in my personal opinion, is the most important, obviously diet and stuff, but I've realized there's a direct correlation with the money I make and meditation. So I've realized that I go through like a little bit of a loop, because obviously I'm not perfect. I have the knowledge, but obviously being consistent 100% of the time, nobody is. So I kind of go through a loop to where I meditate, and then I get out of the meditation, and I basically meditate for like a month, and I start making so much money. It's fantastic. And then great, we scale, fantastic. And this is something I realized recently, so I've been so unbelievably consistent. I haven't stopped meditating for so long at this point. But it came to a conclusion, meditation is going to make you so much more money. Now, I'm not gonna get to the woo-woo stuff, whatever, but meditation is so unbelievably important because you are so overstimulated in your day-to-day life. You have so many factors, right? So this is you. Actually, I'm not gonna make you happy because you're probably not in the position you wanna be because you're watching this video. So you have things like the music you listen to, people doubting you, social media, a bunch of YouTube gurus telling you to do some bullshit. You have, you know, all the news and all the sad Twitter stuff going on. You have all these negative things going around you, right? 24/7. Do you really have time to yourself? Do you really have 30 minutes collectively every single day where you are not being stimulated through any facet? Any sense of smell, hear, you know, thought, where you just clear your mind and you allow your mind to just be numb, have nothing there. That's what I think most people need. Most people can't think because they don't have free space. They don't have time. They don't have the mental real estate to think thoughts and dilute them and articulate them in the way that they want. Does that make sense? I'm not able to come on this channel and spew a bunch of random shit and talk without stuttering for however many minutes, however many hours, without meditation. Does that make sense? If I sat and I recorded and I listened to trap music and rap music all day, and I watched Mr. Beast YouTube videos 24/7, I would not be able to sit here and distill this information because I would be so overstimulated. Now, meditation essentially combats this completely. Now, the reason I preach meditation so much is because it allows you to think clearly. It allows you to come up with your own ideas. It allows you to take the information and the inputs you've received over the past day, 2 days, 3 days, and dilute it into your own ideas and original outputs and thoughts. Does that make sense? So this comes down to inputs. So every single person has inputs, right? This video you're watching is an input. How are you going to use this information, right? How are you going to use this information? Well, you need to meditate on it. You need to sit on it, and you need to think about it. Every single week, you probably have thousands of things going in and out your brain. What you retain is obviously up to you and what resonates with you the most, but you have all these things coming into your brain, but you're not retaining anything. Like, for example, what's the last Instagram reel you watched? What's the last TikTok you watched? Right? But I guarantee you, after you watch this YouTube video, you're gonna remember what it is because it is a good input. Does that make sense? And it was valuable. So I want you guys to meditate. After this video, I highly recommend it. I remember my first time meditating. It was like 20 minutes and it was hard, but after like minute 10, I was like, holy shit, this feels crazy. And I got up out of my chair and I was like, for the first time, I've reached a different level of consciousness and actualization to where I felt clear. I could think, I could act with intent. I understood. I could perceive my situation. Does that make sense? It's fucking insane, but that's because most people don't do it. Like, meditation is so taboo. You know how many times I've been called gay for meditating? I tell my boys, like, these guys that I grew up with, yo bro, sorry, I just got done meditating. What the fuck you meditate? You see what I'm saying? I don't care what these people say. And I'm gonna do it regardless because it makes me fucking rich as shit, I'm not gonna lie. So meditation is fantastic. I would highly suggest you guys meditate. Now, there's a proper way to meditate. Now, I wouldn't say there's a proper way to meditate, but I'll show you guys how I meditate because I've tried practically every single method. So, like we talked about earlier, I play my subliminals, And that's around for 10 minutes. So my subliminals go for around 10 minutes, there we go. So my subliminals play for around 10 minutes, under 432 hertz frequency audios. Then my regular meditation, it goes for around 15 minutes. So I meditate for around 25 minutes every single day because I would count my subliminals as meditation, but 15 minutes under 432 hertz frequency audios, subliminals under 432 hertz frequency audios. Make sure you're using the right terminology. Take notes if you haven't in this video so far. Next thing I want to talk about is creativity. Creativity. Now, this is the biggest reason why most people are fucking poor. So if you made it far into this video, congratulations, your dopamine baseline is not cooked. And watch videos like this. You understand? My dopamine baseline is so low that I can watch, even if I just watch anybody talk, I can watch you guys understand, for entertainment, my lunch YouTube is watching podcasts. I sit down and I watch people talk to each other, and that brings me joy, that brings me entertainment. I'm sure, like, how can you not aspire to be joyous by that? You guys need drugs and Instagram reels to feel happy. I can just sit down and watch two people converse, I can just watch intellectual discourse, and that makes me feel happy. Does that make sense? You guys should all aspire to be like that. And if you're not, then clearly you don't want to get rich bad enough. But anyways, creativity. Why do you think all these billionaires become DJs? Why do you think every single billionaire or artist becomes a DJ? Or does some art project or some charity or gets into cars or whatever? It's simply because creativity. Now, creativity will make you rich. That's the simple truth. Creativity will make you rich. Now, me personally, I do a lot of creative things. I have a piano sitting over there. I make music. I go on walks. I talk to other people. Obviously, I make YouTube videos like this, which plays into creativity. So it could be making content. There's a trillion different things you could do to be creative. But creativity is going to make you rich because most people, they don't have any creative outlet. Because in order for, like, business is literally just solving problems. Right? Business is providing value, and to provide value, you need to solve problems, and to solve problems, you need to come up with banger solutions. Does that make sense? So business and making money is just providing value. Value is solving problems, and solving problems means you have to come up with solutions. So how do you come up with creative solutions? It's simply by being creative. So I can name plenty and plenty of times in my entrepreneurship career, whatever you want to call it, that I have came up with a innovative or a really creative solution that is very unorthodox. Does that make sense? It's very unorthodox. So that's simply because I'm creative in other outlets of my life. If you guys only rely on business, you are a loser. If you only rely on business to be creative or make decisions, then you're a bum. Does that make sense? Creativity is the -- 1 thing. And obviously this plays into practically every aspect of your life. But if you only have inputs in your life, if you only have inputs, right? You only have things going into your brain 24/7, things that are only entering and nothing is exiting. Does that make sense? There's nothing coming out of your brain. You only have inputs, you have 0 outputs. You're going to be like, you need an outlet to express your thoughts and your creativity and your mind. Next thing I want to talk about is environment. So you guys can very much so rig your environment. Sorry for my poor handwriting, guys. I dropped out of high school. But you guys can very much so rig your environment to be successful, right? So that plays into everything. If you can look at my background, right? Do you see any posters? Do you see any cool light LEDs? Do you see any cool figures or anything? No. Literally all I have in my living room, a whiteboard, a desk with the most expensive MacBook I could possibly purchase with money, and an ergonomic chair. You need to rig your environment for money to get rich, right? Now, this is something that a friend of mine said, rig to get rich. Okay, so this is what a friend of mine told me. He said, I don't spend money on anything, not even traveling. The only thing I spend money on is things that make me excited to work. This guy has a $4,000 Erman Miller ergonomic chair. He has a $2,000 oak, chestnut, whatever the fuck wood desk. He has the most expensive, widest, curviest, fucking sexy monitor you can possibly imagine. The nicest keyboard, the nicest mouse. He has a $500 microphone, which I literally bought as well. Does that make sense? Do you understand, if you were to work on a fucking Chromebook or an Android phone versus getting on a $10,000 MacBook in a $4,000 chair, custom tailored to your posture and your back and your height, you'd be fucking excited to work, right? So you need to read your environment for success. Now, one thing that I've done is I essentially took down, when I was trying to get rich and I was living in my mom's house, I took down everything in my room. I took down absolutely everything. I took down the posters. All I had in my room was books. So I took down all my posters, I took down any things I had on my shelves, my desk was just completely empty, it was laptop, mouse, keyboard. That's all it was, maybe a notebook, because it's too in the way. You need to rig your environment for success. Most people's lives are not in accordance to success, which is why they aren't successful. Does that make sense? So this plays into the food you eat. And like I talked about in the last video, I'm gonna talk about it right now before I end off the video. So this plays into identity, okay? This plays into identity. So everything needs to be in accordance to your identity. Accordance. Does that make sense? Everything you do and everything that you input, right? So input I would define as an action that you do in your life. Does that make sense? So this could be foods you eat, food/diet. This could be actions. And this could be, you know, for example, under actions, this could be meditation. This could be music. This could be podcasts. Does that make sense? Podcast, music, meditation, actions, food, and diet. There's a million different examples I can put as far as the different inputs that you want to go with. But everything needs to be in accordance to your identity. So you have, like I talked about in the last video, if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It's an hour long. Basically, everything needs to be in accordance. So all of your inputs, you need to meditate like a rich person. You need to listen to music that this rich person identity of you would listen to. You need to listen to the podcast that the rich person version of you would like and enjoy. You need to read the books that the rich person of you would like. Hey, maybe you think that rich person you is really interested in World War II history books or Napoleon. Then go read books on that. Because if your belief is that, then you need to affirm that belief. Does that make sense? So your actions should obviously be in accordance with the identity. Your food and diet should be in accordance with the identity. If I were to wake up and I were to fucking crush a Big Mac, would that be in accordance with my evolved identity of making $10 million a year? Fuck no, it would not. Does that make sense? So every single input in your life has to be in accordance with the identity. If you wake up and you're doing actions that are not in accordance with this identity, then you're gonna feel like shit. Does that make sense? If you know a successful person wakes up and he doesn't scroll on Instagram Reels, then if you're scrolling on Instagram Reels, you're gonna feel lazy and that's gonna ruin your day. Does that make sense? So to conclude this video, break down in inputs, like go and do inputs, right? So I can break down everything I did today. We'll break this down because, you know, I'd argue I'm rich, my companies do $1 million a year each, and I can't complain, right? So let's break down these inputs, okay? I woke up, what did I do? I washed my face and I showered. First thing I did was Bible and pray. Fan-freaking-tastic start to the day, okay? I read my Bible and I prayed. Next thing I did was, to be honest, I checked my phone. I checked phone and I got to messages and I would argue that counts as work and it feels productive. Next thing I did was I ate. I ate great food, I ate great foods and I sat in the sun. So we'll just write 8/sun. So I ate great foods and I sat in the sun. So the sun's gonna give me energy to work. It's gonna make me feel fantastic. It's gonna up my dopamine and my serotonin. Then I ate, which is gonna fuel me for the rest of the day and I won't feel hungry. Next thing I did was I got to freaking work. Does that make sense? I just got to work. So I personally disagree with the whole 50-step morning routine, but this is literally my inputs until now. That's all I've done today. That's all I've freaking done today. Now this video is obviously gonna make me feel more productive. Like the more productive you feel, the more achievement dopamine you're going to get from doing productive things, if that makes sense. But this is literally all I've done up until, like I would consider this work, I would consider this work. Everything I've done on my computer is technically work. Does that make sense? So these are my inputs. I want you guys to break down your inputs. Obviously, they're not correct. Maybe some of our are in accordance with the identity that you want, but clearly they're not because you're watching this video. So break down your inputs. What are they? What do they need to be? I'm giving you guys an actionable for watching this video. Most YouTubers are not going to give you actionables and tasks and homework to do. This is like this YouTube channel is like a course. This YouTube channel is like a fucking course on everything. So break down your inputs. Understand what you need to do, what you need to fix, what you need to remove from your life, And really quick, I think I talked about that in the last video. I'm not gonna write it out because it's gonna take too much time, but you can't quit a habit, you need to substitute a habit. If you play video games for 20 minutes a day, you can't just not play video games for 20 minutes a day because you're gonna have to spend that 20 minutes doing something, right? You can't just do nothing for 20 minutes. So maybe read for 10 minutes and meditate for another 10 minutes. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So to conclude this video, guys, if you comment down below what videos you want to see me make. I'm interested in helping you guys. This entire YouTube channel is a course tailored to the online money smart people space. You're a competent individual because you clicked on this fucking video. Comment down below, and I respect that, comment down below what you guys want me to see and topics you want me to cover and what realms of business do you want me to cover in the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to apply to work one-on-one with me, we guarantee you at 10K a month for your money back, no questions asked. And keep in mind, we've had 0 refunds in the history of running this program. Not a single dispute, no refunds whatsoever, so clearly we help people out. First link in the description if you want to do that. Follow my Instagram, subscribe to the channel, shameless plugs everywhere. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, stay blessed, take care.